The reason why I decided to come to Project Veritas is because people need to know what's actually going on with Google. There's this facade about what they're doing, but what they're actually doing, what the employees are actually seeing inside the company is different.
But the reason we launched our AI principles is because people were not putting that line in the sand, and they were not saying what is fair and what's equitable. So we're like, well, we are a big company, we're going to say it.
People who voted for the current president do not agree with our definition of fairness.
They're not objective piece. They're not an objective source of information.
But then there are teams, which are called ML fairness.
ML fairness, the teams?
Fairness, like,
yeah.
You know, you need to be fair.
We're also training our algorithms, like if 2016 happened again, would the outcome be different?
They are a highly biased political machine that is bent on never letting somebody like Donald Trump come to power again. 2020
is certainly on top of, now my old organisation, Trust and Safety, is top of mind. They've been working on it since 2016 to make sure we're ready for 2020.
This is a Goliath-eyed butt of David trying to say that the emperor has no clothes.
He got called in front of Congress multiple times. They can pressure us, but we're not changing.
Being a small little ant, I can be crushed, and I'm aware of that. But this is something that is bigger than me. This is something that needs to be said to the American public.
Elizabeth Warren is saying that we should break up Google. And like, I love her, but she's very misguided. Like, that will not make it better. It'll make it worse, because now all these smaller companies who don't have the same resources that we do will be charged with preventing the next Trump situation. It's like a small company cannot do.
And it's like...
Earlier this year, a Facebook insider exposed deboosting of conservatives on Facebook. That insider inspired someone at Pinterest to come to Project Veritas with his story. Last week, we released a report from the Pinterest insider Eric Cochran detailing censorship of pro-life and Christian content.
The tech companies can't fight us all.
Today, we bring you a Google insider, a brave man who came forward and brought us a story that will scare you.
I think sunlight is the best disinfectant, and people need to start asking questions.
A couple weeks before the Google insider came forward, Project Veritas secretly recorded with Jen Janai, a Google executive. Janai talks about making sure when people search for things through machine learning algorithms, Google's political agenda is always present.
We all got screwed over in 2016. Again, it wasn't just us, it was like people got screwed over, the news media got screwed over, like everybody got screwed over, so now we're rapidly being like, what happened there? How do we prevent it from happening again?
Right after Donald Trump won the election in 2016, the company did a complete 180 in what they thought was important. Before, they thought self-expression and giving everyone a voice was important, but now they're like, hey, there's a lot of hate, and because of there's a lot of hate, misogyny, and racism, that's the reason why Donald Trump got elected. And so we need to fix that, and we need to start policing our users, because we don't like to have an outcome like that. We don't want to have an outcome like that to happen again.
Yeah, let's talk a little about that. Tell me more about what you observed at these meetings right after Trump was elected. Who said it? What was said exactly?
So the things that changed was that the TJFs, they started talking about the need to combat hate and racism online, and also at YouTube they had the same talks by the CEO Susan, and they talked about combating that and getting rid of unfairness. And so slowly they started introducing the concept of machine learning fairness.
Jen Janai is the head of responsible innovation at Google Global Affairs. She determines policy and ethics for machine learning, or artificial intelligence. What we've learned is that AI is increasingly what Google Search is all about.
But the reason we launched our AI principles is because people were not putting that line in the sand, and they were not saying what is fair and what's equitable. So we're like, well, we are a big company, we're going to say it. Where my definition of fairness and bias specifically talks about historically marginalized communities, and that's what I care about. Communities who are communities who are in power and have traditionally been in power are not who I'm solving fairness for.
Our definition of fairness is one of those things that we thought would be like obvious and everybody would agree to, and it wasn't. Like there are the same people who voted for the current president do not agree with our definition of fairness.
Fairness is a dog whistle. It does not mean what you think that it means, and you have to apply doublethink in order to understand what they're really saying. And what they're really saying about fairness is that they have to manipulate their search results so that it gives them their political agenda that they want. And so they have to rebias their algorithms so that they can get their agenda across. You know, to unpack everything that she's saying that she wants the algorithm to be fair to a hand-picked representative of that community means that what she's trying to do is she's trying to sell you a product that is not objectionable. What she's trying to do is she's trying to sell a product that's not objective, that doesn't represent the will of its users, but instead represents the will of a group of people making decisions behind the shadows.
So what did you find inside Google that was related to this idea of fairness?
What I found at Google related to fairness was a machine learning algorithm called ML Fairness, ML standing for machine learning. And fairness meaning whatever it is that they want to define as fair. You could actually think of fairness as unfair because it's taking as input the clicks that people are making and then figuring out which signals are being generated from those clicks and which signals it wants to amplify and then also dampen.
So I have Google.com up in front of me, and I'm going to try to put this AI machine learning thing to the test. I'm going to type in the following words: men can. And I see men can have babies, men can get pregnant, men can have periods, men can cook. Do most people search for that stuff, or what is the company doing internally?
You know, people aren't searching for this. This is literally coming from source of truth databases that they've selected represent the truth and that they are pulling this information from.
And then we try it again with, let's try this with women can. I see women can vote, women can do it, women can do anything, women can be drafted.
Yes.
That seems a little interesting.
So all these examples are part.
Innovation at Google Global Affairs. She determines policy and ethics for machine learning, or artificial intelligence. What we've learned is that AI is increasingly what Google search is all about.
But the reason we launched our AI principles because...
What was said exactly?
So the things that changed was that the TJFs, they started talking about the need to combat hate and racism online, and also at YouTube, they had the same talks by the CEO, Susan, and they talked about combating that and getting rid of unfairness. And so slowly they started introducing the concept of machine learning fairness.
Jen Janai is the head of responsible innovation at Google Global Affairs. She determines policy and ethics for machine learning, or artificial intelligence. What we've learned is that AI is increasingly what Google search is all about.
But the reason we launched our AI principles because people were not putting that line in the sand, and they were not saying what is fair and what's equitable. So we're like, well, we are a big company, we're going to say it. Where my definition of fairness and bias specifically talks about historically marginalized communities, and that's what I care about. Communities who are in power and have traditionally been in power are not who I'm solving fairness for.
Our definition of fairness is one of those things that we thought would be obvious and everybody would agree to, and it wasn't. There are the same people who voted for the current president do not agree with our definition of fairness.
Fairness is a dog whistle. It does not mean what you think that it means, and you have to apply doublethink in order to understand what they're really saying. And what they're really saying about fairness is that they have to manipulate their search results so that it gives them their political agenda that they want. And so they have to rebias their algorithms so that they can get their agenda across. To unpack everything that she's saying that she wants the algorithm to be fair to a hand-picked representative of that community, means that what she's trying to do is she's trying to sell you a product that is not objectionable. What she's trying to do is she's trying to sell a product that's not objective, that doesn't represent the will of its users, but instead represents the will of a group of people making decisions behind the shadows.
So what did you find inside Google that was related to this idea of fairness?
What I found at Google related to fairness was a machine learning algorithm called ML Fairness, ML standing for machine learning. And fairness meaning whatever it is that they want to define as fair. You could actually think of fairness as unfair because it's taking as input the clicks that people are making and then figuring out which signals are being generated from those clicks and which signals it wants to amplify and then also dampen.
So I have Google.com up in front of me, and I'm going to try to put this AI machine learning thing to the test. I'm going to type in the following words: men can. And I see men can have babies, men can get pregnant, men can have periods, men can cook. Do most people search for that stuff, or what is the company doing internally?
People aren't searching for this. This is literally coming from source of truth databases that they've selected represent the truth and that they are pulling this information from.
And then we try it again with, let's try this with women can. I see women can vote, women can do it, women can do anything, women can be drafted.
Yes.
That seems a little interesting.
So all these examples are part of the social justice narrative, right? And so the sources of truth that ML Fairness is selecting from to amplify are saying these keywords. And so because that source of truth has been vandalized, the output of the algorithm is also reflecting that vandalism.
Project Veritas also received a trove of confidential documents from within Google. This document is about algorithmic unfairness. It reads, quote, "For example, imagine that a Google image query for CEOs shows predominantly men. Even if it were a factually accurate representation of the world, it would be algorithmic unfairness," unquote. Gaurav Gite, a Google software engineer, independently verified the thesis of this document.
But then there are teams which are called ML Fairness.
ML Fairness, the teams?
Fairness, like,
Yeah.
you need to be fair.
Yeah.
So they're trying to modify the model such that even if the data for female CEOs is
It's low.
It's low.
It kind of balances out.
It still balances out.
Now, this is a confidential document, correct?
Yes.
This is not a document that Google has come out and admitted that this is their process.
That's correct.
And in this document, it says, I'm going to read from it.
In fact, if you brought this up without the document, they would say that this is a conspiracy theory.
Wow. So then they wouldn't admit this publicly.
They would never admit this publicly.
In this document, it says, in some cases, it may be appropriate to take no action if the system accurately affects current reality, while in other cases, it may be desirable to consider how we might help society reach a more fair and equitable state via product intervention. What do they mean by that?
So what they want to do is they want to act as gatekeepers between the user and the content that they're trying to access. And so they're going to come in, they're going to filter the content, and they're going to say, actually, we don't want to give the user access to that information because it's going to create an outcome that's undesirable to us.
So this was an internal-only Google document, which says the goal is to establish, quote, a single point of truth for definition of news across Google products, unquote. What does this mean?
When they mean single point of truth, what they mean is alignment with the narrative. And so the narrative is manufactured by establishment players. And what they're looking to do is they're looking to boost authoritative content.
Accusations on around the fairness is that we're unfair to conservatives because we are choosing what we define as credible news sources, and those news sources don't necessarily overlap with conservative sources, and so we're getting accusations of fair from one side.
Does Google have an editorial agenda? Does the company make news decisions? Is that what I'm seeing in this document?
Yes. This is describing what's happening with Google News.
Would Google have a problem if people saw this document?
Yeah, I think so.
Why wouldn't Google want people to see this document?
The reason why is because right here, in some of these boxes, they're applying editorial, their editorial agenda onto the news sources. And if you were to expand that, you would see that there's machine learning fairness within these algorithmic checks. And they state right here that it's for crawlability and extractability, but in reality, does it fall in line with their agenda? And if it does, it pops to the top, and if it doesn't, then it gets buried.
Other internal documents expose Google's hopes for ML fairness. Training data are collected and classified. Algorithms are programmed. Media are filtered, ranked, aggregated, and generated. People, like us, are programmed. Sounds like social engineering, not search querying. Google's power has become a political issue, with politicians on both sides of the aisle debating whether antitrust legislation or other regulations and controls are in order.
We got called in front of Congress multiple times and we've not shown up because we were like, we just know they're going to just attack us. Like, we're not going to change our response, we're not going to change our mind. There's no point in just sitting there being attacked for something that we know we're not going to change. Like, they can pressure us, but we're not changing. But we also have to be aware of what they're doing and what they're accusing us of. Like I said, like, they could just, like Elizabeth Warren, even I love her, but she's also saying, like, you just have to break up Google and that will solve everything.
You have to what?
Elizabeth Warren is saying that we should break up Google. And, like, I love her, but she's very misguided. Like, that will not make it better, it'll make it worse, because now all these smaller companies who don't have the same resources that we do will be charged with preventing the next Trump situation. It's like a small company cannot do.
And it's like the White House is supposed to play a role in making things more fair, so people are holding us accountable to fill in the gap of what
Right now, there's a lot of chatter in Washington, D.C., antitrust discussions and legislation being mentioned about breaking up Google. How do your bosses or the people that you work with inside of Google feel about that?
For the most part, they're ignoring it. To them, it's not even happening. They don't see it as a real threat because it's something that's already happened before and passed. She just said what Google's really thinking, and they won't say in public. But she just said, you know, what a lot of us see and know to be true. And you guys just got her, and she just said the truth. They're not an objective piece. They're not an objective source of information. They are a highly biased political machine that is bent on never letting somebody like Donald Trump come to power again.
2020 is certainly on top of now my old organisation, Trust and Safety, is top of mind. They've been working on it since 2016 to make sure we're ready for 2020. So training our algorithms, like if 2016 happened again, would the outcome be different?
It's unclear what Janai is exactly referring to, but Google's political agenda is undeniable. What are some other things I can type here?
Hillary Clinton's emails are. It doesn't even give you a result.
Google is suggesting that people do not search for this term. Is that correct?
That's what they're saying. It's not even worth returning any results.
But people do search for this.
Absolutely, and you can tell that because you can cross-reference some of their other services that prove that people are. If you want to get an example, go to trends.google.com.
Okay, I'll do that right now. Trends.google.com. And shall I?
Hillary Clinton's emails, yes. Okay, and set it to the last 5 years.
Seems like we had a spike in October of 2016. It says 100. I guess is that 100?
It's all relative. So in order to get an idea of the relative importance of this, you're going to want to compare it against another search term.
Let's type in Donald Trump's emails. Okay. Show me what I'm looking at here.
So what we see right here is relative to the search term of Hillary Clinton's emails, Donald Trump's emails has no search traffic.
No search traffic. Now let's go back to google.com and search for Donald Trump's emails, and it should show us no autocomplete because according to Google, no one searches for it compared to Hillary Clinton's emails. But it does. it gives us a whole bunch of different examples for autocomplete. So fewer people search for this, and it autocompletes, and everyone searches for Hillary Clinton's email, and it doesn't.
That's right.
What's the explanation?
Well, according to them, Hillary Clinton's emails is a conspiracy theory, and it's unfair to return results based on her emails. And so through their program of ML fairness, they've deleted the autocomplete off the internet like it didn't even exist.
How did they do that? Was it manually? Was it a human being? Was it a machine? AI?
Well, the way that it works is that they're training the AI now with a bunch of humans that you can consider them social justice warriors or whatever you want to label them, but they are feeding the information and training the AI so that it will return results like this. And when they aren't able to train it, there's actually someone that will go through and manually delete certain keyword terms or put it as a blacklist. There's a lot of people filing bugs internally against Google, against these invalid results, and they ignore them because they've got no interest in fixing things that go against their social justice narrative or reduce what they consider to be fair.
Google is protected by Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. It says, quote, "No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider," unquote. Meaning Google is not liable for any content on their platform. Some people think a solution is this Section 230 and taking it away.
I mean, they violated not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. Section 230 says that in order for them to be a platform, they can't censor the content that they have. And instead, they've decided to act as a publisher, making them responsible for everything that they put on. And they're still masquerading as a platform, even though they're acting as a publisher.
It doesn't stop with Google search. Our insider says political biases are censoring voices on YouTube, owned by Google as well. He says the YouTube rollout discussion was at a rather bizarre location.
They didn't have it. It was a special occasion that happened in May, and they invited us all to the Masonic Temple to talk about the future of the company for YouTube, and they described that they were going to have more content filtering. And right after that happened, a lot of the content creators started to get demonetized, and their videos started to get deranked. I'm talking about Dave Rubin, talking about Carpe Diem, talking about Tim Pool, and a lot of the other content creators that are within the YouTube ecosystem just saw their view counts just go through the floor.
What did YouTube do to make their view counts go down?
So Google is targeting what they consider to be right-wing news commentators. So that includes Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Stephen Crowder, and a host of other right-wing people that they are coming in, they're deciding that they don't want these opinions to have a wide appeal. And so they're coming in and they're putting their thumb down and they're deciding which content the users are allowed to see. The way that Google's able to target people is that they take videos and then they do a transliteration through using artificial intelligence. And they look at the translated text of what those people are saying, and then they assign certain categories to them, like right-winger or news talk, and then they're able to take those and apply their algorithmic rebiasing unfairness algorithms to them so that their content is suppressed across the platform.
Specifically, the insider verified that PragerU, the conservative educational YouTube channel, and talk show host Dave Rubin's videos received heightened analysis in the artificial intelligence program Viacom. Viacom polices YouTube distribution, singling Prager and Rubin out as right-wing and news talk.
So they're playing narrative control.
What's scary about this to you?
What's scary is that Google's deciding what's important and what's not important. they are going through and they're effectively deleting conversations from the national narrative. It reminds me of a book called 1984, and that should have been a warning. 1984 should not be a user manual on how to run society. And Google's falling directly into that trap, where they're deciding what gets read, what gets consumed, what people are able to click on, what appears. You know, it reminds me a lot of fascism. Like, you know, it's not just about burning books. When videos get pulled off of a platform, that's also a form of censorship. I've been living this for, you know, years. And so, you know, it's like, yeah, that's what it is. And for other people, it's shocking. But for me, it's like, this is why I'm coming forward. Because it is shocking. And people have no idea that it's happening. And they still think that Google is an objective source of information, and it's not.
Are you afraid?
I am afraid. I was more afraid, but I had a lot of difficulty with the concept of, you know, my life ending because of this. But I imagine what the other world would look like, and it's not a place that I'd want to live in.
What do you think is going to happen next for you?
Hopefully I get away with it and nothing bad happens, but bad things can happen. I mean, this is a behemoth, this is a Goliath, I'm but a David, trying to say that the emperor has no clothes. And being a small little ant, I can be crushed, and I'm aware of that. But this is something that is bigger than me. This is something that needs to be said to the American public.
This year, insiders approached Project Veritas and told their stories, exposing the giants in Silicon Valley. Thanks to the bravery and courage these insiders are showing, big tech is being held accountable. This is a watershed moment. It's not the New York Times or CBS News doing the work. It's individual citizens, anonymous heroes who put their careers on the line, and they've struck a nerve and found their voice at Project Veritas. People always ask me, what can I do? You can follow the lead of Eric Cochran and the Google Insider. You too can be brave, wear a camera, and contact us securely at projectveritas.com/brave. Now, this is a confidential document, correct?
Yes.
So then they wouldn't admit this publicly.
They would never admit this publicly.
Play the clip again.
But she just said, you know, what a lot of us see and know to be true. And you guys just got her, and she just said the truth.
Maybe another example or two, if you have it on top of your head. If not, no worries.
Oh man, this one might be too big of a pill for people to swallow. Want to just take a little detour and see something really
Well, yes. What is going on? What is happening right now in this country?
So they're applying narrative control, and what they're doing is that they're applying their human, the human component, which is they're going through with an army of people, and they're going to redefine reality. They're going to redefine a reality based on what they think is fair.
Okay, so let's be honest. I think the censorship that we're experiencing on big platforms, it's getting so out of hand and so ridiculous that it's kind of a joke, to the point where this morning I woke up and found that, very unsurprisingly, the Project Veritas expose that was done on Google recently, where a whistleblower came forward and exposed their biases, their machine learning AI biases that's been pushed. AI machine learning fairness. Fairness, of course, not meaning what fairness is supposed to mean. It means whatever Google wants it to. Kind of like their terms of service. It's completely subjective and it's full of doublethink right across the board. He even mentioned the whistleblower whose face and his voice was altered, his face was covered. He's in shadow. He even talked about 1984 being used. It feels like it's being used as a manual instead of a warning, but it was so cringy when I woke up this morning. Actually, that's how I felt. I actually cringed to find out that Google had removed the Project Veritas video, and I knew they were going to do that. I was just like, oh god, seriously, like, what are you doing? Like, do you actually think that you're going to win? Do you really think this is, like, you couldn't get any more obvious? Like, the irony of censoring a video that's critical of Google and speaks out about how they censor people. What are you doing? What are you doing? It's ridiculous. So they got to take their football and go home. That's what it feels like. Because that's how the left is behaving in America, like spoiled, rotten children when they don't get their way. It's not fair. Well, we agreed to what the rules were. The rules were, this is how the game is played, right? So this is how the democratic process is going to work. We're going to vote for the candidate we want. No. If we don't get the outcome we want, then the game wasn't fair. What? No. Look, the rules only apply to the opposition, right? It only applies to people we don't like. Just apply the rules to them, not to us. We're kind of above that. We have a bigger, we have a grander plan that we have to achieve. We have a bigger agenda. Yeah, there was a time when they were literally just a platform, and that's what they admitted to being. We're just a search engine. We help you find stuff. And then at some point, it was like, we need to get involved now, politically. The world is going in a particular direction we don't like, and we have to stop that. And so this brave whistleblower, finally, we've had whistleblowers. Project Veritas has done fantastic jobs with exposing things at Twitter and Facebook, with the deboosting thing, and then you had recently Pinterest. The Pinterest video gets taken down recently because of a privacy complaint from a third party. Very convenient. I think I could be wrong. I think what happens is some of the people who are featured hidden camera style in these videos, or who are named perhaps, they make a complaint, and then so that way the company doesn't have to take responsibility. They go, oh well, we had a privacy complaint, so it was asked that we take it down. Sorry, it's nothing to do with censorship or anything. Yeah. And so it looks like it may have been similar in this instance. So I watched the video yesterday. It's up on BitChute. Donald Trump Jr. retweeted the BitChute link, which is fantastic and very good exposure for BitChute. The video now, at the time of making this video, has, let me just double check here, I believe it has, where's the window? I had it open just 2 seconds ago. It has over 40,000 views on it. So it's good to see BitChute getting that publicity, because it's getting bigger and bigger as a platform, and people are realizing it's becoming a bit of an essential service at this point. Project Veritas have a BitChute channel, which you should check out. I want to read a couple of the comments that are on the BitChute video. Camosol writes, when the guy says fairness does not mean what you think it means, which is something that the whistleblower talks about. He says, when Google talk about fairness, it's not what you obviously think of. It's everything is inverted. He says fairness means communists getting their way. Anything else is unfair. If you argue, then it goes from unfair to immoral. If you argue again, it's a crime. It's nothing but an escalating warning persecution system for daring to disagree. Exactly. There will be no political dissent in the future. If there's political dissent, then there's obviously a battle of ideas. If we have competing ideas, we have competing ideologies, and obviously we might have a situation where people are able to see the truth and they'll want to escape the matrix. Sixth Gen writes, self-righteousness is the worst brand of narcissism, and Marxists are among the most self-righteous ideologues in human history. Like I say, once upon a time, we're just a search engine. That's it. We're just a platform. We were just literally Google, Facebook, Twitter, they're just footballs, right? Someone else has a football. We don't have a football, right? It's so childish now. This is where it is now. It's like 10-year-olds playing football in the street. So it's like, okay, well, I don't have a football. You got a football. Let's play with that football. Okay. And then you go out and you beat the opposition by 4-0, 4 goals to 0. And then they go, this isn't fair. I'm losing. I'm taking my football and I'm going home. And they walk off. And you're kind of going, well, you agreed to play the game, and what do you want me to do? I mean, I'm a better footballer than you. It's not fair, though. I'm losing. It's my football. I should win. This is the pettiness now. It's like at the level of corporations with massive power, huge influence over our democracy, the ability to literally meddle with elections. And the funny thing is, Ray Vahi of BitChute commented on this at 13 minutes 30 seconds. One of the people, the head of responsible innovation at Google, the lady says, breaking up Google won't help because smaller companies won't be able to stop a Trump situation. It's incredible. It's as if, well, of course people need to stop Trump. And doesn't everyone want to stop Trump? Because everyone thinks the way that you do, right? It's incredible. As Ray rightly says, she assumes the small company would want to meddle in elections. Precisely. It's amazing. It's once upon a time, everything was going fine, but then something happened that we didn't anticipate. And this is the important thing. It's not that Donald Trump is like radically is radical opposition to the left overall. Yes, he's very much against communism. I suppose that's the big one. But he's flip-flopped on lots of things. Devin Stack of Black Pill did a video. It's just a montage of things that Trump said and then went back on and flip-flopped on loads of different things. I got my issues with Trump. I much prefer to have Trump in there than Hillary Clinton, so I'm glad I don't live in that horrible mirror universe. But the point is, we got what we got. Now, I think the main issue, the globalists, the deep state, the media, Silicon Valley, the main issue that the Democrats have with Trump is how he got elected, how he got appointed, not necessarily what he does. And I think he could literally start singing from the Democrat hymn sheet tomorrow, right? And they would still have a problem with him because of how he got appointed. Right? He wasn't the establishment candidate that the oligarchs said, right, this is the guy. We don't really give a crap what the public think. They're going to vote the correct way, and that's it. Right? This is the person. We choose the president, and then there's some bullshit democratic process where people believe at election time that their vote matters and that they're voting based on what they believe to be who they believe to be the right candidate, that they have agency, but they don't really. We've already brainwashed them and conditioned them sufficiently that they're under our thumb. So they'll vote whatever way we want. So Hillary's definitely going to get in. That's what they thought. And it didn't work because the people are actually more clued in and awake and coming out of the matrix than the elites believe, or they like to believe. So that's the reason. Because it's not that they're absolutely terrified of Trump. They're terrified of the idea that populist candidates can get elected, and that basically Trump got around the media through social media and spoke directly to the people and was able to destroy the narrative. If you're destroying the narrative, well, you're a problem then, aren't you? Because obviously the media need to be able to control what people believe about everything. So they're concerned really, I think, about the next becoming useless basically, and another Trump coming along. If you don't cut the legs off of this social media thing right now and censor the crap out of it, well then the public can just keep voting for whoever they want. Right? You can't have that. Apparently you have to vote the way the elites want you to. So it's a fantastic video, and it was removed on YouTube because of a bullshit privacy complaint. And it's just some of the things that were said in it. She talks about, one of the ladies that they filmed undercover, she talks about how they want to make sure they're ready for 2020. There's something like that, so making sure they're ready for 2020. And the whistleblower talks about how once upon a time, Google considered itself to just be, platform, whatever. And then when Trump got elected, they decided that there was all this hate and misogyny and racism, and that's the reason why Donald Trump got in. I mean, we know this from the outside. We see the censorship on the outside. It's just good to finally get a little bit of an insight on the inside, and that's what we've really been missing, is just how these algorithms are working and what they're doing and different things. And he demonstrated a few things with James O'Keefe. And so, for example, one of the things that the lady says is, my definition of fairness and bias specifically talks about historically marginalized communities. So basically their definition of fairness is going to come from a position of cultural Marxism and social justice agenda. And so that's what all these AIs are doing. They're rebiasing their AIs to make sure that they're pumping out the result that they want the world to see. Our definition of fairness is one of those things that we thought would be obvious and everyone would agree to it, and it wasn't. There was the same people who voted for the current president who do not agree with our definition of fairness. Yeah, well, see, this is the thing about fairness. Fairness seems to be whatever makes it so that the left wins. Also, cry me a river about these privacy complaints. Somebody doesn't want to get featured in an expose video. Well, here's the thing. The content is extremely important. All right, the revelations in this are absolutely monumental, right? It's very important that people know about this stuff. And your privacy is trumped, I'm afraid, by the fact that you're part of an organization that's doing this, incredibly powerful organization that has huge power. You're literally talking about election meddling. And they go, but my privacy. Sorry, look, this is the reason why. Because Google doesn't have some front-facing customer care. I can't pick up the phone to Google and go, hi, can I speak to a manager, please, about such and such a thing. I can't do that. It's very, very difficult to actually get a hold of these organizations, and it's set up there deliberately. So yes, of course, right, if you're not going to be open and frank with the public and allow them to speak to you, what do you expect is going to happen? People are going to start doing exposés like this, and they need to, because they need to expose corruption. Right, this is what Google is against. They're literally against you criticizing them for their disgraceful behavior with all of this censorship. They're censoring people's free speech online, and then when you expose it, they censor you. Oh, it's just a joke. It's a freaking clown world. And when you listen to how they speak, and it's the same with the when Project Veritas did the one on Twitter before. They do these hidden camera things, and you listen to the people who work there speak. You go, how can anyone believe what they believe? How are they saying these things? Like they live in an alternate universe, and then you realize that this organization is amazingly powerful. They can do all of these things. They can represent reality in a particular way. They create a reality distortion field. They can make you believe things that aren't true. Crazy stuff. Like, if you go to one of the things he demonstrated, if you go to Google and you type in men can, and the autocomplete is men can have babies, men can get pregnant, men can have babies now, men can have periods. What the hell? So you're dealing with an organization, right, that is populated with a lot of people who believe the same things. And the company is incredibly powerful, hungry for more power, authoritarian, censorious, and based on the interviews that were done, the undercover interviews, you listen to how they behave, and you hear about their biased algorithms and the inner workings of the company. And we have the information of years of watching the censorship happening from the outside, from our perspective, watching our videos get demoted or throttled or whatever it was, because he also talks about censorship on YouTube. He mentions Dave Rubin and the likes of PragerU and Tim Pool and Stephen Crowder and people like that. It's clear that we're also dealing with an organization that's filled with people who aren't rational. So yes, they can go on about these privacy complaints, but the truth of the matter is we need these exposés. We need the likes of Project Veritas doing this, because this is what journalism looks like. And it seems these days that there's very little real journalism being done. And this is what real journalism looks like. It's exposing corruption in the inner workings of a majorly powerful corporation that has huge influence over our society, over our culture, and over the free passage of information online. It's just crazy. I just realized my lighting is terrible. Sorry about that. But Google, they could try and lecture us about what's fair. Google talks about fairness. I mean, it's like when they used to say, "Don't do evil" or whatever. Don't be evil. Whatever their slogan used to be. If you have to say that, you have to wonder about the company culture, don't you? If you have to actually, that was your slogan. But it's incredible. They'll lecture us about fairness, and this is an organization that could, if they wanted to tomorrow, with a straight face, right? They could completely and without any sense of irony or sense of humor or anything. They would just say, here's a fact: water isn't wet, and you just be like, and you have to accept it. And anybody who disagrees, you're going to get censored. I mean, this is the kind of organization. I just showed you those search results. Crazy stuff. Men can have babies. Men can get pregnant. Men can have period. What the hell? This is what I'm talking about. So, honestly, and here's the thing. They're talking about we're going to be ready for 2020. You're a search engine, aren't you? You're an app. You have an app store with the Google Play Store. You've got Android operating system. You've got AdSense. You've got Maps. You've got YouTube. You've got all these things, all these services. Just do those. Just focus. You've got Chrome. Focus on the services and the products that you produce, and take your politics out of it. Thanks. What the hell is it's so terrifying that an organization has a hand in so much of our lives. Companies like Google. It's a handful of companies, and they've got they permeate so much of our lives technologically. And then they introduce a political bias, and they start telling you the nature of reality, and they start trying to lecture you and tell you how you should vote and what you should believe. And then when you try and criticize them, you're censored. It's just it's baffling. And honestly, you're not going to win again. Trump is going to win in 2020. There are no other valid candidates. I mean, say what you will about Hillary, she actually had a reasonable shot last time, but you don't even have anybody who's going to be close to her. Trump is probably going to win in a landslide. But there you are. This is why I support Senator Hawley's push with the Communications Decency Act. I think it's the only game in town, and hopefully that gets signed as soon as possible and we start hearing from Donald Trump about it. Certainly, please watch this Project Veritas video. It's called Insider Blows Whistle and Exec Reveals Google Plan to Prevent Trump Situation in 2020 on Hidden Cam. And it's over there on their BitChute. Actually, it's just gone up while I'm making this video. It's now up to 52,000 views. And it's growing fast. They're doing amazing work, James O'Keefe. And well done to this whistleblower for coming forward. Absolutely hilarious how they play the private company argument. We can do what we want. We're just a publisher. We're just a humble publisher, right? And yet they're working behind the scenes to achieve a certain agenda, to literally manipulate the public into voting a particular way to ensure that Trump is stopped in 2020. They don't have another Trump situation, and they get the outcome of an election, which is a public thing, but they're a private company. Incredible. The arrogance is just breathtaking, and it's when you get censored like this, you got to take it as a badge of honor. To be honest, it's funny because it's gonna backfire, and more people they don't get it. Like Streisand effect. It's fantastic. It's on BitChute. It's a great watch. Project Veritas should have. They're doing an essential service. Anyway, I've rambled for long enough. Thank you very much for watching this video. And speaking of BitChute, please subscribe to me over there. There's 38,000 followers on the BitChute channel. Thank you to everybody who subscribed thus far. And anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to covering one of the worst and most social justice warrior driven YouTube channels out there, AJ+. And if you guys were wondering how their videos and business stay afloat despite them getting terrible ratings and views, well, that's pretty easy to explain actually, as it's listed as a public notification under all the Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to covering one of the worst and most social justice warrior driven YouTube channels out there, AJ+. And if you guys were wondering how their videos and business stay afloat despite them getting terrible ratings and views, well, that's pretty easy to explain actually, as it's listed as a public notification under all their videos. Al Jazeera is funded in whole or in part by the Qatari government. That's right, this is state-run, pro-progressive, pro-SJW Muslim propaganda at its worst. This shit also gets backed by everyone and their mother in the mainstream media in America too, since the liberals are apparently trying to be down with the Muslims now. And in case you were doubting the wokeness of AJ+, here's the title and premise for their new video. Is milk only for white people? That's right, they're taking a 4chan joke meme and they're taking it seriously and calling all whites racist because of this. Classic AJ+. Well, I guess we should check out their video anyway, I suppose, and see what these SJW stooges have to say for themselves.
This is me on the verge of something explosive.
It's not comfortable.
And this is me observing white supremacists on YouTube. What do seriously painful indigestion and white supremacists have in common? Milk. Let me explain. My name's Yara, and I'm lactose intolerant, which basically means dairy products screw me up.
Oh, milk.
Okay, slow down there, kid. As if this video's style and presentation isn't cringy enough, you're also just straight up lying and misrepresenting in the first 20 seconds here. This wannabe Aladdin kid said he was watching white supremacists here for some reason, but then the people he was watching just said, I can drink milk and you can't, which is actually true since this AJ+ guy just said he was lactose intolerant. And since I'm familiar with with this event that's in the clip shown here, I know for a fact this wasn't some kind of white supremacist KKK rally, like what's implied here. Even AJ Plus labels the clip as being from the He Will Not Divide Us event, which is really old news, by the way. He Will Not Divide Us happened over 2 years ago, in January 2017, but for some reason, this AJ Plus Aladdin kid is still talking about it and thinks it's relevant. And he's even mislabeling the people at the event for no reason. Why would he want to do this? Well, they want to cover white supremacy, clearly. And since that's not really relevant or being pushed or rallied for seriously, well, the SJWs then have to dig back into events from years ago, sometimes that are not even related. And this is the same thing they do with the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally too. But in today's case, with the He Will Not Divide Us event, the one that was spearheaded by the actor Shia LaBeouf, who basically broke down because Trump won the election, well, AJ Plus referencing this event here now, they really have no excuse to label those people as white supremacists that were there. He Will Not Divide Us was a live stream, a publicity stunt designed to be anti-Trump. And sure, trolls and memesters started showing up to make a joke of the whole thing, but there was no legitimate white supremacist there that I know of. It was a 20-hour live stream in New York City, though, that lasted many days, so that's definitely possible, but I would have to see a lot more proof than just some guys drinking milk with their shirts off, like what's shown in this AJ Plus video. Showing that doesn't make these people white supremacists, and him saying I can drink milk and you can't doesn't either. Never mind the fact that this is a true statement and the discount Aladdin guy already admitted he can't drink milk, but also in addition to that, this meme, this milk meme, like all good jokes, well, it comes from some truth. The best comedy is based on reality, at least in part, and with this milk meme in question here, you'll find the same situation. You see, it's pretty common knowledge that white, Caucasian, and American and European peoples, we drink lots more milk than the other races. Not only that, or perhaps because of that, whites are also much less lactose intolerant on average. For example, according to research, 90% of China's population is allergic to lactose, and their population is 1.3 billion people, mind you. And then back to the United States, and well, lactose intolerance varies by race, with about 74% of African Americans being lactose intolerant, 87% of Indians, and only 14% of Caucasians having some kind of lactose allergy. So yeah, when people bring out that milk meme, it actually is based on these facts. It's based on reality and truth. White people tend to be less lactose intolerant on average. And sure, this whole thing is being said as a goof or joke here at He Would Not Divide Us, but it's certainly not automatically making these people racist or white supremacists, like what AJ Plus is suggesting and promoting here.
So avoiding them is actually a pretty big part of my life.
Relief from dairy. We're eating dairy-free milk. I'm lactose intolerant, and I'm eating this stuff.
But believe it or not, people like me are actually in the majority. 65% of the world's adult population is lactose intolerant to some extent. That's most of Earth.
Yeah, we all know this, dude. What are they teaching you kids at your Qatari high schools anyway? I thought it was pretty common knowledge that most people in the world can't drink much milk. That's why most international foods don't have dairy products in them. Did you ever notice how Chinese or Thai or Japanese foods, they never have cheese or milk in them? Putting cheese on, say, orange chicken or in a sushi roll wouldn't be traditional Asian style at all, and it wouldn't be very good either, for the record. But I have tried and enjoyed shredded cheddar on, say, ramen noodles once in a while, but again, this isn't authentic at all. And on the flip side, many and most European-style foods do have lots of dairy. Pizza has cheese on it, so do burgers. Pies and pastries have lots of cream. We also put milk and sugar in our coffee, so on and so forth. And these are all Euro-based foods and styles that have lots of milk, and they usually involve dairy in one way or another. So yeah, the point is, this stuff has been known about milk and in our food and diets around the world for a long while now. So I guess this is just news to the AJ Plus guy, and that's fine and dandy, no worries. And I also appreciate people who want to learn new things, but what I don't like is, and what I hate here is, this video turning to whites and calling us racist for no reason. And also, isn't it funny how the kid hosting the AJ Plus video, well, he looks up the stats for worldwide intake of dairy. They even noted it as being 65% of the world is lactose intolerant. Well, that's interesting considering the stats that I shared with you before. I wonder if AJ Plus is going to be honest and share a breakdown of milk intolerance by race or by regions or countries. And this is the true and honest background to this milk meme as well. But I doubt Al Jazeera will admit this, since their goal clearly is to shame white people here.
But these milk-chugging white supremacists seem to think that only white people can drink it, and that somehow that makes them superior. But that doesn't make sense, because my co-producer Tavish can digest milk.
You can't eat dairy ice cream.
And he's not even remotely white. So why do these white supremacists think they're so special?
Jesus Christ, dude. If this guy doesn't stop calling all people white supremacists, I think I'm gonna lose my shit here. At least show us someone doing something that's pro-white supremacist one time. Come on. You really think we're just gonna all take your word for it on this? Please. Just because you showed us pictures of white people drinking milk, that doesn't make them this thing you called them. And then there's the next lie here. In the whole title and basis of this video, the line, milk is only for white people, a line which this host Yara complains these people at the He Would Not Divide Us said or something, but we still have no proof or evidence of that in the slightest either. I guess they expect us to take their word on it again, but really, why should we? And what kind of reporting or journalism is this anyway? Al Jazeera is supposed to be a big Middle East news agency after all, and AJ Plus is supposed to be their hipster SJW video making wing, like some sort of BuzzFeed meets Vice meets Middle East. But despite all that, this Yara guy is just making shit up in his video, and he's putting words into people's mouths and misrepresenting facts and figures. What a goddamn joke. If you want us to buy into all this guy, you really need to back up your premises here. We need to see proof that these people are what you say they are, and we need quotes of them saying the line that this video is based on, milk is only for whites, because so far we've seen none of this here. And if you ask me, I think you're stretching and possibly making all this up. Next, the AJ guy drinks some milk himself as some kind of dumb wannabe BuzzFeed experiment or something. He then films himself waiting to poop while sitting on a couch. I'm not kidding. This is part of the video. And then there's actual footage of him in the bathroom taking a shit. Really great journalism being done here at AJ Plus. And I think the video of him taking a poo is a metaphor actually. It's an analogy for how this project is going. Eventually though, after going through the history of humans drinking milk, for no good reason really, well, next Yara turns back to calling all white people white supremacists for some reason. Check this part out.
But that got me wondering about the clip from the white supremacists I showed all you earlier.
I don't know if you've seen the video of white supremacists in America chugging milk.
It's kind of reassuring to know that there is actually no end to their stupidity. Lactase resistance is very common in many African populations.
That's cool, but again, and I hate to defend these He Will Not Divide Us idiots too much, but they never said explicitly only whites can drink milk. Rather, they said, I can drink milk and you can't. Pretty close, admittedly, but I think it's a noteworthy distinction because it's clear AJ Plus is hell-bent on lying about everything and everyone here. That's why they had to turn their joke mean into an absolutist and serious statement, because if they admit this was all a joke, that's actually based on real numbers by the way, well, attacking that isn't as big a deal. And also, if AJ says they are just 4chan trolls at the He Will Not Divide Us event, well that's not as exciting or as big an enemy for them to tear down. You see, SJWs have a sort of hero complex where they want to be perceived as saving people in order to get public acknowledgements and virtue points. The problem is though that in current year, there's really no longer any big, terrible, horrible monsters out there to stop in the world anymore. There are no more Nazis, white supremacists, or KKK members, which are all dwindling into minuscule level numbers, so that's why SJWs like the ones at AJ Plus, they have to make up their own villains. And that's why they falsely label anyone white as a white supremacist, so they can look like a hero when they take them down. But since their arguments aren't serious or they are better thought out, well, AJ Plus then has to misrepresent people's stances too. They're basically misrepresenting everything here and being dishonest as hell in the process.
It's evolved more times in Africa than it has in Europe, and it's also common in many Middle Eastern populations, in Southern Asian populations as well.
So, just to reiterate, your skin color has nothing to do with whether you can digest milk.
Your skin color has absolutely nothing to do with whether you can digest milk.
Well, that's a funny way to phrase all this. Kind of putting the chicken before the egg here, though. You're strawmanning and putting words into people's mouths again, too. No one really said your skin color will affect the way you digest milk. Really, it's more likely that you can digest milk if you're white, American, or European. It's not because of the skin color, it's just a trait white people tend to have. Much like how you wouldn't say your skin color doesn't affect how good you are at basketball. But it is certainly true that more black people are good at it. And these two different ways to phrase this might sound pretty similar. And I might sound like I'm nitpicking here by being so strict on this phrasing, but AJ Plus is kind of making me do this. And they know what they're doing here when they say it like this too. They're trying to make these trolls at the He Will Not Divide Us event look more racist or something because they're white people. And it's also trying to make all whites look worse in the process. That's the end game of this video, make no mistake. And it's also the goal of AJ Plus's whole channel for that matter, pushing pushing anti-white, anti-American propaganda, while also feeding off of SJWs and invading our pop culture along the way.
So if people like me are in the majority, why do we feel like we have to hide or be ashamed of our lactose intolerance? I put a call out on Slack to see if there were any other lactose sufferers among us.
So my name is Ben.
My name is Sana. Jen, Sydney, Phoebe,
Tark.
I've been lactose intolerant for like 12 years. 2 years, 10 years now.
I was that kid who would literally chug milk all the time.
How did you realize you were lactose intolerant?
I was trying to get fit.
Okay, time to relax, people. You can't drink milk. It's not the end of the world, though. There are plenty of other options and food choices out there, so I don't see why this AJ Plus guy feels the need to start a sort of support group for this kind of bullshit. I mean, they're all in the majority here, right? This shouldn't even be an issue for them, but it is, and I think I know why. Really, this all proves that their whole statistic of 65% and claiming they're in the majority here, well, it's all bullshit that doesn't make sense and isn't true. Sure, if you count the whole entire world's population, 65% don't do milk, but we don't live all over in the whole world. We live in cities that are part of certain countries, and in Western European influenced countries like America, milk is a big deal, and that 65% figure wouldn't apply here at all. In fact, according to this chart from Wikipedia, North America is only 15 to 30% lactose intolerant, and if this guy lived in Northern Europe or Britain, that percent would be 15 or below. So I think you guys get the point. AJ Plus took the world average and